even if it's like a 2-year program, even if you don't think you're gonna get a job writing poetry, but you study poetry for 4 years, I think it's just sort of like Nautilus for your mind. Highly recommend. And then, they're not going to take attendance in college. Their attendance is that they'll put you on academic probation and kick you out of the school if you don't know what you're doing. So, it's right. And then they will have extra study sessions. These are particularly valuable for a number of reasons. Like organic chemistry, there was a recitation section for the lab. I couldn't go to it because I had scheduled something else. But let me just say, I was just totally lost in the lab, and all the other students knew what they were doing. But the other thing is that the extra study sessions are led by graduate students, and the graduate students really know the program, and so you can, once you get to know them, you can sort of ask them about advice for the program that you're in, which is very helpful. And then this is our way of saying don't drink too much. Let's go something like this. 1 beer might be fun, okay, but 6 beers is not 6 times as much fun. The funness goes up just slightly, and then it goes down. Okay, I'm just going to say, be aware of that. My freshman dorm, I remember on a number of occasions on a Sunday morning, stepping over unconscious bodies in the bathroom, in a pile of urine and vomit. So, probably you don't want that to be you. But that was one of the funnier moments. Was waking up one morning. I was in this freshman dorm, and across the hall were all these people they recruited for the football program, which had lost. We had the record for the most consecutive losses. Macalester was distinguished in that way for football. And so our year, they were like, damn it, we're going to win a game. And we did. I believe we won a single game. Which really, it's almost worse than being the best losing school, right? They recruited all these kids, and they were on the one side of the hall, and on our side of the hall were all these, liberal hippie freaks from the East Coast and me. My dad was a professor at Macalester, which is why I went. One morning I wake up, first realization, the doors to my room is open. We close the door at night, but our door's open. I'm like, okay, the door's open. Then I look over at the bed across from me. It's my roommate. My roommate was a very slender and tall Chinese man. I look over, and the person in the bed is not my roommate. And I recognize immediately by the shape, this guy is roughly spherical, that it was David Perkio from across the hall, right? One of the football players, right? And I'm just sitting there going, A, where's my roommate? And B, why is David Perkio in my bed, my roommate's bed, right? The phone rings. Guess who the phone is for? It's for David Perkio. It's his grandma. There's a phone at the end of the hall, right? So it's like this is 1980s. Nobody has cell phones, right? So I'm like, I go out and I answer the phone. It's like, is David Perkio there? And I go, yeah, who is this? I go, it's his grandma. So I go, I know exactly where David Perkio is, right? So I walk over and I tap him on the shoulder and I go, hey, David, it's your grandma, right? And he gets up. Now you got to remember, David Perkio is from the other side of the hall. He gets out of the room and he turns left to go to the phone. He's going the wrong way to the phone. He's from across the hall. From his room, you would turn left to get to the phone. He turns left, walks down the hall, and where the phone should be, in his frame of reference, there's a fire extinguisher. I see him walk up to the fire extinguisher and kind of grab the hose. And I believe at that point he woke up, and became aware, I just thought that was one of the finer moments. And then signing up for classes, if they have an orientation, it's handy. They'll give you kind of the clue for that. This is my survival. If you go to a big university, at Macalester wasn't so much a big deal because there was just one professor that taught my physics classes, so I really didn't have a choice. Okay, if you go to PSU or if you go to the University of Minnesota or something like that, there's going to be 7 professors teaching the class. And you think they're the same class, but they're not, okay? The class, organic chemistry taught by Professor A is enlightening, the professor is articulate, and the lectures are worthwhile. Organic chemistry taught by Professor B is boring, and the assignments are many and they're pointless. So just find out, get somebody to steer you. And the best resource here are upperclassmen in your same department. I went through PSU right behind Duggan, like 2 years behind Duggan, and got my master's. And I would always ask Duggan, I'd say, which professor should I get? And he knew the skinny, right? And there was one guy that he said, no, never, ever take this professor. And I'm like, and this guy offered the classes right when I wanted them, right? And he said, no, never take this professor. And I'm like, I kept saying, should I? No. And he goes, no, never, right? And then one time we're waiting for this class to begin, and these other students are complaining about some professor. And I go, well, who is this? And it was that guy, right? They were in the class, and he goes, it's like they're going on and on. Yes.
What if you have ability to ask?
Well, that's where the graduate students are helpful. So if you go to those extra study sessions, you'll get to know the graduate students in the.
Right, my professor.
Yeah, you could do that too. It's really, the problem is that they're just like online reviews, right? Like something that's perfectly good can be just like, right? Somebody just posts it when they're mad. But it's better to have to know somebody, an upperclassman, right, and just talk to them. When my daughter went to Montana State, they paired the sophomores with freshmen. So there were 2 freshmen, 2 sophomores in a quad, which was kind of cool. And then don't sign up for a billion things. Just understand that when your first semester or quarter, you're going to be adapting to living with a roommate, which is just some random person that right? May or may not share similar values, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to be away from home, and that's kind of a thing, right? And it's just different. College is different. So just sort of. I certainly didn't do this, but this is more Duggan. I just jumped right in with calculus. Although I thought I was going to fail out of calculus my first semester. And then get the class catalog. It used to be this printed thing. Now it's of course online. And here's the thing: is that they offer classes, but they don't offer every class every term. So you got to read the fine print. This is where your advisor comes in, so they'll offer it every other term, and they'll rotate these things. And it's kind of a pain if you get to the end of your senior year. There's that one required class you need, but they don't offer it that semester. They offered it in the fall, and you should have taken it in the fall, right? So just find out, try to lay it out like that, and then they give you a schedule for when you can sign up, and it's kind of like getting a campground in Yosemite. You should be sitting there going refresh. I'm in, and then you've got your plan. When I was in high school, we did arena style scheduling, like you guys do online scheduling. We had arena style scheduling, so they gave you a computer card with your name on it that just identified you, and you would walk to teachers. Teachers would be sitting there, and they had 32 cards for every class. When they ran out of cards, you couldn't get that class anymore, right? So you'd run up and you'd go, I need English first period, and they'd be like, here, you trade it, and then you'd run to this other thing, and you'd try to go to the places that like closed first, right? They were the smallest window, right? And you try to grab those cards first, which I think prepares you for like internet stuff, right? So just have your schedule ready, and then as soon as you finalize your class, go to the bookstore, because that's when they'll always say, go to class first and then get your books. That's for people that want to buy the books full price. Okay, you can buy them. Often used books are a good deal. You can also get them on internet. My daughter did a good job of getting like used books on the interweb. Right. Textbooks are expensive. You're going to spend some of them. You're going to spend like $500 a quarter on that. And then, take notes in class. I don't know. People tape the class. I never had time to listen to it. Compare notes to others. Some people take really good notes, find out who they are, and go out for a cup of coffee afterwards and say, hey, what did you think? What was. And then as soon as you can, go over them immediately after. And this is my advice. My mom went to school to be a nurse. She had 4 kids. My dad, took off, and he was, he paid child support. He wasn't like, but he found someone else and took off. And my mom had a BA in like economics, which, what do you do with a BA in economics? So she went back to nursing school and learned to be a nurse. She would fall asleep while she was reading me books. I'd be like, wake up, because she was working part-time, going to school full-time, raising 4 kids, right? So like my older sister had to cook for us and stuff. But she went back to school, and one of the professors took her aside and said, hey, for nursing, really what you want to do, there's a lot of stuff you need to remember. So right after class, go sit down and just go through your notes. And she would go and just find a classroom, an empty classroom or some quiet space, and just go through all her stuff. And I've saved her anatomy and her microbiology books because she wrote so much in the margins of these books. Anyway, she's kind of my hero. And then, read the class materials before class like you're supposed to. Then study habits. Find a quiet but safe place. I like to go in the stacks. Stacks aren't, in the library. But they've and the colleges have done a better job now of sort of making nice little places to study. Like McAllister now has this beautiful commons building. They tore down my dorm, okay? My freshman and sophomore dorm, which was a really crappy dorm, I'm just gonna say. The commons that they built is a much better deal. It's kind of, this is Duggan's thing, one day a week, and this often happens, right? You could have a class that's like Tuesday, Wednesday, and then a lot of Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then maybe Thursday has, just, use your times. Follow the syllabus. They're going to give you a syllabus. They'll, just like we do in this class, and they're going to expect you to follow it and keep track of stuff and do stuff on there. And you'll find teachers use Canvas in college, but just like here, every teacher uses it differently. So some teachers will put everything in files, and you got to find it in files. Some teachers put everything in modules, like I do. And then just try to be as organized as you can. You're going to get a lot of information. The more organized you are, I feel like. And then little times, I would study on the bus because I didn't have a car. So I would bus, and I was at the University of Minnesota, busing between campuses. So that was my second bout with college, was getting a teaching degree. And I would make flashcards and study flashcards on the bus. That was sort of my thing. I suppose there's probably an app, I bet, on your phone where you could have like flashcards. I don't know. I just like paper ones. Paper's nice. And then this is possibly the best piece of advice. I survived physics because I knew David Brady, who is just like this genius. And we'd sit down, and they'd give us 17 problems to solve, and we'd just put 1 through 17 on the board. And then you put your name by it if you could explain that, if you'd solved that one problem. And all us physics majors, there were like 5 of us at one point, we'd sit down, and there was this room called the cave. There were no distractions in the cave. Just like this room, there was no outside window. It was literally a room underneath the stairway into Olin Hall. And we'd sit in the cave, and just as we solved problems, we'd write our name by it. Of course, Dave Brady would, he'd be able to solve them all. Sometimes I knew something that he didn't know. Dave Brady's much smarter. And then just life advice. College, I think, is more fun than high school. I was always afraid. People would say, "Oh, these are the best years of your life," about high school, and I'd be like, "Boy, I sure hope not." College is more fun. I think life is better than college. Duggan says sometimes, and I think it's just generally adulting is more fun than being college is sort of like adulting light. Never stop learning. Just keep trying new things. Take yourself out of your comfort zone. There you go. All right. Unsolicited advice. Yeah. You know, that's my graduation speech.
Thank you.